So welcome to the first video in our series of Jim's advice, and what we've tried to do is extend it to be beyond Jim and actually introduce to you some of the people who run and own our divisions. What a lot of people don't know in Jim's is that Jim doesn't technically own every division. He does own some, but there's some are like dog wash and cleaning and actually run and operated by separate people. So what we thought we could do, these people are very successful in business in their own right. They've got a lot of wisdom to share with you, not only related to Jim's, but to just general business, entrepreneurial advice and skills within that as well. So with me today is Sharon Connell, who heads up our Jim's dog wash and grooming division and has been a very successful franchisor. I think you've sold more than up to nearly 140 franchises, so it's a very Herculean effort. And Sharon in the group is really well known as a franchising sale expert, plus also one of the really top franchisors, and Jim really rates her as well. So we thought we'd get Sharon in, pick her brain for around an hour or so, and try and get to you guys as much content as possible, just in general in business, franchising, etc., and hopefully get something from it. So welcome Sharon, and thanks for agreeing to do this.
Thank you.
So we'll start with a generic question which we're going to make in our series, and the first question we're going to ask you is, what is Jim like?
Well, he's real. He's actually a real person, which is always very surprising. Every month at franchisee training, we always get a franchisee that comes in and says, Jim's real. It's a bit surprising that he really is a real person. And he's so involved in the business and passionate about it as well.
I know that you speak to Jim a lot, so how often would you speak to Jim on let's say in a month?
At least once a week.
Yeah.
At least once a week via email, sometimes more.
Yeah.
But generally a couple of times a month as well.
And is it just about business in general, or ideas, or advice, or?
Sometimes I need his advice.
Yeah.
He knows the business inside and out. So it might be a contractual problem, a question that I've got, or it might be just, look, we're thinking of changing this way, or what do you think, and getting some advice from him. Yep. But he's always available. That's the biggest thing with Jim. You can call any time and he's always available to help out. Okay,
great to hear. So can you tell us about what you were doing previously to Jim's? It might have been a while back, but what were you doing previously before getting involved in the system of franchising?
I worked in health for 20 years.
Okay.
I was in the executive part of health.
Right.
So it was very, very stressful, very high pressure business, organisation to work in. Yeah.
Yeah, so with that, what was the defining moment in working in that high pressure environment where you said, right, this is enough, I need to come and do something about it? What happened to it in maybe your life?
I got in trouble one day.
You got in trouble one day, right?
And I didn't want to work for a boss anymore.
Right.
That was it. I just did not want to work for a boss. It was so pressured that I'd spend, all Friday night having to de-stress from the week, and then all Sunday depressed because I'd have to go back to work again. And I just didn't want to do it anymore. I left. I hadn't decided where I was going. I just knew I wasn't ever going to work for anybody else ever again. And it took me, I had 6 weeks of long service leave, and it took me that long to find where I was the right place for me.
Right.
But I was never ever going to work for anyone again.
So once you made that decision and you said, right, that's my moment, my line in the sand, how did you then go about then finding out what you wanted to do? Was there a process, or did you start Googling stuff online, or how did you try and go, right, I'm going to position myself out of working this employee role to doing something else? What did you do from there?
I just Googled.
Right.
I looked at everything. I looked at so many different... I knew that I needed to be in a franchise. I didn't have the knowledge to be able to start my own business. And I looked at cafes. I looked at chicken farming, which was really
Chicken farming?
Yeah,
right.
It was really fun. Made no money, but it was interesting.
Yeah.
And I looked at so much, and I came across Jim's quite towards the end, actually. And then I think for one reason or another, I vetoed that as well, and I was really not sure about it, but my franchisor sent me Jim's book, and my husband read it, and he kept saying, Sharon, you've got to read this book. And I kept saying, no, I don't want to be with Jim's. And he read the book, and he kept saying, you've got to read it. Finally, I picked it up and read it. I finished the last page, and I jumped on and I emailed my franchisor and said, okay, how do I sign up? And I just realised I wanted to be part of an organisation that you could make money and you could have a good living, but you didn't have to rip anybody off. You didn't have to, be deceitful or anything. You could still help people. And I think that was the big selling point for me, that it was so focused on looking after others and not trying to take money off people all the time. That wasn't what it was about. It was Jim's selling by not selling.
Yeah.
Which really, it just made the decision that I was going to come on board in some capacity, and then I ended up in cleaning.
Well, what was there a particular part in the book that really stood out to you? that sort of made you sort of go, okay, this is what I want to be a part of?
One of the parts where Jim, there was a part in there where someone was inquiring about a franchise, and they were looking at 2 different models, and the other model was cheaper, and Jim actually advised them to go with that model. Just, it wasn't about selling, or if that was the right one for you, then off you go. And then people actually came back and decided to go with Jim's after all, because Jim had been upfront and honest and hadn't pushed them or tried to sell to them, and that appealed to me. That's kind of the business I wanted to be involved in.
Yeah, that's great to hear. So just referring back to your previous background with that role, do you think that that role, or do you think there's certain type of people from different backgrounds who have skills in those roles that make them better business owners, or maybe someone more better to buy a franchise? Is there any sort of perfect career background that you've noticed in your time as a franchisor that people come from to be actually successful franchisees?
I don't really think so.
Right.
If I think back to all the franchisees that I've been involved in, they come from vastly different. There's been mums that have never worked and now their kids are at school, they're looking for a career and finding it hard to get back into the workforce. There's police officers, nurses, executives, admin. There's no particular... I think it's not so much their career that they come from, it's their ability or their want to change their lives and make something better of themselves, I think is the one thing that I look for, rather than any particular career or anything like that.
Okay, interesting. So when you went and made the jump and you said, right, I'm going to get involved in gyms, you emailed the franchisor and you said, I want to go with you. Did you ever think you'd be in the position you are now?
No.
So maybe let's just go from that story. So the franchise you were in cleaning was initially, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the strangest. I had no desire to do anything more than just not have a boss and be able to pay my bills. That was it. I finished franchisee training, and it was the strangest thing that one of the women at the conference centre said, I'll see you when you come back for franchisor training. And I went, what? No. And I had no interest whatsoever. I just wanted to work for myself, and I absolutely loved it. Really, really enjoyed it. And then somehow here I am.
So was it something? Why did you choose cleaning initially?
I think it was something that I could do.
Right.
My skill, I couldn't mow lawns. I couldn't resurface baths or anything. It was just something that I could do. I knew that I could do. So that's kind of where I started with.
So how long did it take you to go from cleaning franchisee to franchisor? I know it's a very short time frame.
I started in the April, and in the September I bought my region of the same year. Yeah. So what happened was I had this enormous business. I was making about $4,500 a week. It was
really
huge. Wow. And I desperately wanted to sell a split. And for whatever reason, nothing was happening, and I had so much work on, and I just thought, I could probably do that. And I think I just saw it was such a life-changing business for me, like going from where I was to running my own business. And I just thought I just would love to help other people have this same opportunity as me. It's changed my life. It really, really has. And it's changed so many other people that I've been able to help come on board. And I think that's what I wanted to do, I think.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, I understand. I understand completely. So you've gone and bought this region.
Yes.
So how did you, obviously you went from looking after yourself really and having a business and obviously customers, but you went from now, with just to clarify for people watching, a regional franchisor is responsible for franchisees. You're technically business coach. You obviously got to grow the region, make sure there's enough franchisees to do the work, etc. So how did you find the transition from franchise owner to a franchisor or a regional franchisor?
So when I took over the region, there were 3 franchisors in the region. One of them was myself. 2 of them left pretty immediately after I took over, so that was just me.
Right.
And then I found that the same principles that I applied as a franchisee, it's exactly the same as the franchisor. I just followed the system. I did exactly what Jim told me to do, essentially. I remember when I first started as a franchisee, I had 2 weeks really where I was really frightened. I thought that the business wasn't going to succeed. And then I had like this bit of an epiphany, went, well, hang on. And I went back to training and thought, well, this is my business. So rather than sitting there being cross because Jim wasn't sending me leads or my franchisor wasn't getting me work, I went, oh, hang on, that's my job to go out and get that. And so when I took over as a regional, I had that same kind of moment where I think I didn't sell a single franchise for 8 months when I first started. And I was sitting there thinking, oh, I've been ripped off, this doesn't work. And then I went, oh, hang on, it's about up to me. And then once I realised that I had to go out and look for my own work and generate my own inquiries, I haven't looked back since.
Yeah, so you took some self-accountability as opposed to blaming. You just went, put my hand up. So what exactly did you change about that? Did you be more proactive in your marketing, or did you go out there and change a few things, or what happened?
It was a little bit making that change from being an employee to a business owner.
Right.
As an employee, I was used to working for an hour and getting paid for an hour. And I found I think what my problem was that I didn't make that switch to being self-employed, where you do some things for free and you don't get paid today, but then you get paid later and later. And so I really didn't know what I was doing. I actually went and knocked on doors. I would leave the house at 8 o'clock in the morning with my car fully loaded as if I was working, and I would just knock on doors until I found a job. And I would walk up and say, hi, I'm Sharon from Jim's Cleaning. Can I please clean your house for free?
Yeah.
And I would keep at it until I got a job. And it was a change in my mentality and knowing that Jim wasn't going to give me all those jobs. I had to go out and get them. And so the same thing happened again as a franchisor. Rather than sitting there waiting for Jim to send me people that wanted to buy a franchise, I had to start marketing. So I played around with so many different things, and I learnt as I went. So I probably wasted a lot of money in a lot of different areas in trial and error until I found and then I started using a lot of Facebook, and then started getting some really good inquiries.
You made a couple of great points that we're going to probably elaborate on now. So what you said there, which is really cool, and it's applicable to anyone in business or entrepreneurs, is that concept of the employee mindset where you do get paid an hourly rate. But when you're an entrepreneur or running your own business, you have to provide that value with the expectation you might not get nothing out of it, or just to keep giving value all the time to build a business, then eventually hopefully comes back to you. So that's an interesting mind shift that you had. Do you find that in franchising or in business in general with the people, the franchise owners? Is there anything you can do to help or recommend for people to get that mindset shifted from that concept of being working hourly to that value-based giving mindset? Or is that the way you've just, in regards to what you've done, you went from that mindset and you just put your hand up and said, I need to start giving value here with no expectation of return, and just pay dividends for you?
Taking responsibility.
Right.
I think that's such a hard one. Take responsibility for your business, rather than saying my business isn't successful because my franchisor didn't send me work, or the weather's not very good, or whatever. It's taking that responsibility. So if I haven't got work, whose fault is it?
Yeah.
And it's my fault. And helping people, and I do that. That's one of the big things that I do as a franchisor, is I help people to make that transition from being employees to business owners. And it's a hard shift sometimes, to understand that everything stops with you. And that's a really big part of my role, to help them come to that. And once you do, it's life changing, but sometimes it takes a little bit longer than others.
But what do you do to help them become more self-accountable then? Is there anything in particular you do, or is it just constantly reinforcing that and using your own story?
I spend a lot of time with my franchisees in the beginning. A brand new franchisee I might speak to 3 or 4 or 5 times a day.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do, and I speak to them very regularly. Where are you at today? What's happening? And I'm constantly sending them a message in the background and helping them come to that understanding, because it's not something I could say, right, you're in charge now, you have to be responsible. It's helping them come to that conclusion on their own, and they can grow and develop and become amazing franchisees once they make that mind shift. And some people do it really easily. Some people have had some background in business already, and some people take a little bit longer. Some people sometimes never get there.
So you find that once they get that self-accountability about trying to solve their own problems rather than blaming someone else, then start things really happening for them, and that's what happened for you.
That's a massive change. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So was there a time that you thought you might fail? I know you mentioned just quickly there was a couple of times when you got a bit worried until you had the mind shift. Yeah. But was that the time ultimately where you
had that 2 weeks, thereabouts.
Yeah.
The first 2 weeks of my business, I laid in bed thinking I've used all of our savings, everything. I've given up my job and I can't make this work. And I was very, very frightened. And I guess that fear made me start thinking, well, what do I need to do? I have to change this. I can't just sit here and think, oh my goodness, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
But I did. I had quite a little bit of time. And again, when I was a franchisor, I had that same same thing at the same time, thinking this is never going to work. Oh my goodness, I've lost all our money. But then once you kind of make that shift, this is my business. I'm responsible for everything that happens in it. I've never had an ever single moment since where I didn't think it wouldn't work.
It's very important. So anyone in business in general, you say when they get to that point, rather than just giving up, they should probably take a bit of stock, objectively look at what they're doing, and be really self-accountable.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a massive one.
Awesome. So I'll keep going on here. So referring to your time when you were the cleaning franchisor, how many franchisees did you get up to at one stage? I think I looked online.
I had 110 at the end.
110 franchisees who directly you were responsible for.
Yes.
Wow. So how did you manage to oversee all that? Like, what was your day like?
It was busy, yeah.
I can imagine.
But it's a little bit like having 110 people that you absolutely adore. So it was never hard work. I wanted to call them and say, how's your day going? What are you up to? At any given time, 95% of them, I could tell you what their income was, what was going on in their life, what their business was at, what our goals were, where we wanted to go. Because I loved speaking to them. And I would just call. I just drove down the street and I saw this thing and it reminded me of you. I just thought I'd just ring in, check in how you are. And I did spend a lot of time in the car, so it did make it a lot easier.
Yeah.
I had a bit of a system with my husband, who is my main support person. He's full-time in the office. I would do a voice memo and I'd record it and I'd send it to him and he would put notes in FMS if anything, in our system if anything was needed. But it was busy, but it wasn't hard. It was something that I loved doing. So
you never felt at that time where you're a bit overwhelmed, where you had to scale your business up with more staff, or you were okay with you and your husband just doing your...
I did try having staff.
Right.
The idea was this person would be a duplicate or be able to do the same things as me. But I found that in my situation, nobody loved my people like I did.
Right.
And I didn't feel that she was doing... she was loving them as much as they needed, or the support that they needed. So I decided I was going to do it myself. So
very interesting.
Yeah.
So for someone in business in general, because that's such a massive amount of work to do, how did you manage your time effectively?
Prioritising all the time. Franchisees always came first, no matter what. And then after that came all the other stuff. So if a franchisee calls me, particularly if they're brand new, no matter what I'm doing, I would always answer the call. If it was a franchisee that had been on board for a little bit longer, I'd send them a message, so I'll call you back in 15 minutes or whatever it was. But they always came first. Because of the support that I had at home with Ben, my husband, I really only met with people and talked to people. I didn't really do a lot of the background stuff. He would do all the ordering and all the stuff that needed to be done at home. So all I had to do was do the fun stuff.
But you delegated obviously is that more of his skill set to do that, and then obviously your skill sets to be the communicator and get out there and see and all sorts of stuff.
And I found over time what happened, because Ben is very steadfast, so I found quite often franchisees would call him if they wanted someone to just listen, whereas I was always solving the problem. Okay, that's what the problem is, let's go out and let's do this. Where Ben would say, okay, and what do you think is the best way to... And so some people would generally call Ben over me. Most of them called me, but some people really related to his style of helping them. But for the most part, I did all of the front part, the talking to people, that sort of thing.
Well, you had it set up in a way where you complemented. It sounds as though you complement each other really well.
Yeah.
The styles of approach and what your different skill sets are, and that comes together and makes an effective thing. So I guess if anyone's scaling their business up to size, just make sure you have complementary pieces as opposed to putting on similar.
He's got a very good attention to detail. I once tried to book somebody in for a flight and I got it wrong, and it cost, I think, $60 each time to change it. But then when I changed it, I got it wrong again. And then I changed it and I got it wrong the third time. So after that, Ben did anything that required any attention to detail, because he's very good at that side of it, where I'm better at thinking and planning and other things that don't require...
That complementary skill set was important for your business. Yeah. So this was all from an online stat. So your total revenue from Jim's Cleaning was bringing you more than, I think it was 2.5 million, which I think people don't know understand how, as a regional franchisor, if you're very successful, it can be very lucrative. But why did you decide to sell?
I didn't. It was the weirdest thing happened. So I went to and this is a bit of a story, sorry.
Yeah, let's go for it.
I went to a franchisor conference that we had, and at that stage I was the only franchisee in my region. And Haydo Hussein, the division at the time, had all these different levels of franchisors, and I was like at the very bottom, like I wasn't even on the sheet, and there was, 100 was the goal, and I thought, I can get to 100. Anyway, so my whole goal was to reach 100 franchisees. That was my goal, and then once I hit 100, it just kept going, and I woke up one morning and I said to Ben, I think I need a new challenge, and it was the strangest thing. I just thought, I think I just need to do something else. I need more challenge, and it was that afternoon, Angela Anderson, the franchisor in New Zealand, rang me up and said, Sharon, can you come and be divisional for dog wash? And it just kind of out of nowhere, and I thought about it, and I thought it'd be a really fun challenge. It really would. So I think it was in June, I can't remember, June 2017 or something. So it was on the Thursday or Friday, we decided that I would move into dog wash. By the Monday, I had all of my cleaning regions sold. It was the whole lot. By the Monday, I had them all sold. It came in at all the regions at $950,000 or something. I'd sold them all. The divisional rang me up on the Tuesday and said, "Oh, give me a call if you want me to help you sell those regions." I said, "They're already sold." And so then I had 2 weeks holidays, and then I took over dog wash, and I'm so glad I did. I love the challenge. Absolutely adore it.
There's a common theme is like a lot of successful people like yourself, they have a business and they build it up, and then they're like, okay, this is all good. It's not about the money for them, was it?
No.
It was never about the money. It was that challenge.
No.
The money's obviously a nice side benefit, but that challenge, you've done it. What's the next thing on? And they move on to the next thing. So ultimately for you, it was because it wasn't about the money at all. It's just that you set out your mind to do it, you completed it, and you went on to the next thing. So so how do you maintain? You're well known in gym. So how do you maintain such a positive and enthusiastic attitude? Even talking to you can tell you've got that, that glow in your eye and stuff. And you talk about franchisees, and you said that you generally adore all your franchisees or your business owners, which is great to hear. So do you have any advice for people who might struggle from time to time with their just overall motivation or attitude in business?
I think there are times, especially in the beginning of dog wash, I probably rethought whether I should be there, probably about 25 times a day. But I just love it. I love being able to help people change their lives. I love seeing a little frightened, timid franchisee come on board and then grow and develop and get confidence and push themselves past their limit, and then be a good example is our Tasmanian franchisors. When she came on board as a cleaning franchisee, she was, you know how they do the awards? She was so frightened. She was so timid, and she was very frightened. And she actually, I think what happens is when you have some wins in business and you push yourself a little bit further, you get more and more confident. Robin's now a franchisor for Tasmania, and she's one of our most successful franchisors. She does information nights, she does meetings, and she's so confident. And to see from where she came from to where she went, it's an amazing thing that makes it all worthwhile. It really does. So
you love that process of just seeing that person coming from day one, where they might not be confident, and you just love watching that journey so they can be a really confident business owner and doing themselves really well. So you're well known as one of the best franchisors and salespeople in gym, especially with 140 franchises you sold. So what's your secret to the sale? This is just in general for anyone. It could be from business entrepreneur, but what's your selling secrets?
I think the biggest one, and I sold the majority of my franchises in my work boots and my bleach stained work shorts. People could just see that they were just like me, and they could see themselves there. There were no pretenses. I had my old ratted out old car, and I just love helping people, and I think people can see that and they can relate to you, and I think that's kind of.
So when you went out there, you were very relatable to them. As you said, there was not a suit or there was no flashy bling and stuff, which I know that a lot of people might go out there to impress, they might do that. But you went out there just as you are, relatable.
Yeah.
So when you dealt with them as a question, what questions would you get from a prospect in the sale? And how, let's say, for example, was there a lot of more concerns about how much money will I make, all that sort of stuff. How would
That's
you address
always
that?
the big concern.
Yeah.
It always is that they're going to make, and we've got the pay for work, which I think is the most fantastic thing ever in the whole world, pay for work guarantee.
So if you maybe want to elaborate on that, so the pay for work guarantee is something that we offer all new franchisees.
Yeah, so it's basically essentially a guaranteed income where we actually pay you to do promotional work to build your business. So most people that come into gyms haven't been in business before, so it's helping them to make that shift to doing things for free, to build their business up. And it's the best and the smartest way to build your business really quickly, by doing promotional jobs. People see you there, people book you back in for regulars, and we essentially pay you to do those promotional jobs. And it's the best way to have a partnership between a franchisee and a franchisor. I'm financially invested in my franchisees being successful because I pay them, but it also helps them to see the benefits of doing those things for free to build their business up and help make sure that they've got food on the table in those really first crucial few months when they first start a business.
That's very, very important. So just going back to, maybe you may have covered this before, what's one of your favourite franchise owner stories that you can probably tell us?
Oh, my favourite in the world, and Robin was just a little bonus. I had a friend, his name's Eric, and I'm allowed to use his name.
Yeah, go for it.
So Eric was in a different division, and he wasn't doing very well. He was basically at that point where he hadn't really made that switch to business owner. And he was going to walk away, and he was going to lose all of his money, which I found very upsetting. So one of my franchisees told me about him, so I went and spoke to him, and I said, look, I'll give you a free franchise with cleaning, and I'll work with you, and I'll make sure that you're successful. Anyway, so I essentially gave him a franchise. I honoured pay for work for 2 months, so he claimed pay for work for 2 months, even though I'd received no money for the sale at all. Within 5 weeks, Eric sold a split, so he made himself nearly $20,000 on the split. He then developed his business in such a way that when I sold all my regions, he bought one of my cleaning regions in southwestern Sydney. And the difference from this man that was about to walk away from his business to now being a very, very successful franchisor is massive. And the fact that I was able to help him and guide him, and I did a lot of work with him. So I would go up to Sydney, and I'd work with him. We'd go around and do marketing together and help him build his business up. It took him from when he first started to week 5 to have enough customers that he could sell a split. He got himself in a bit of a financial hole, so that was able to fix all of those issues up for him, and he was then able to continue on in his business.
That's great.
And he's still around, and he's still a very, very good franchisor, it's just, again, it's an amazing thing to be part of. It really is.
So that's what's coming through to me just from talking to you is that's why you do it for, is that it's because it's your passion, right? It's not all about the money. It's just that passion and that journey, seeing this guy from nearly on the edge of losing everything in his investment. You've been able to turn it around and now build him up to this confident business owner doing really well. So just going back to when you say you went around and did marketing with him, what type of marketing did you do?
So we went to shops, petrol stations, houses, left business cards, flyers, went and spoke to commercial properties, asked them if they wanted free work. We just basically walked around all of these local streets and marketed everywhere we possibly could. So we went to petrol stations and put business cards, all of those little things that are easy to do, but if you're not in that mindset of being responsible for your business and doing those free things, it's very hard to do. And what I found, a lot of franchisees, all they need to do is see me go and approach a shop owner once, and they go, oh, okay, that's pretty easy, I can do that. But they need to see someone and needed that demonstration. So I took Eric around, and we went from shop to shop to shop to shop, and we built his business up, very, very quickly. Within 5 weeks, he had a great income, and that's because he worked so hard, and he committed to the process most definitely, but also I was guiding him and helping him because I just didn't want to see anybody fail, whatever division they came from.
That's really really great to hear. So the interesting thing about that, as you said, is obviously there's the advent of online advertising and all that sort of stuff, and everyone's the online entrepreneur and all that sort of stuff they're pushing around it. But for me, the hustle with your marketing was literally just getting in front of the owner of the business and going and doing those little things which providing value. Hey, can we do this service for you free in front of the business owner? which provided you all that value in the long run, as opposed to sitting back and maybe just doing some ads online or whatever. So you actually got out there and hustled and went inside. So how effective do you think that is?
I think you need to, when you're building your business, you need to advertise everywhere. You can't rely on any one medium. Facebook's great, social media is fantastic, but nothing beats someone standing in a petrol station line going, wow, I've been thinking I need to get my dog wash, I'm going to take that card and ring them. Nothing compares to that at all. So I think you have to have all everywhere, and pay for work guarantee again. Doing a free job is the best tool in this business. If you're at somebody's house washing their dog, your trailer's out the front, people are driving past, if you haven't got a job and you're not doing pay for work, you go home, your trailer's tucked in the garage, no one sees you, you're not out there on the roads as well. So social media is very good, but if somebody drives past and sees your trailer at somebody's house, that's a bit of, a social...
sort of a billboard, just a billboard on the road all the time.
But it's also saying, well, that person uses them, so they must actually be really good. So there's a double thing that happens there as well.
That's a great point. So going back into probably some previous stuff we've talked about, just in general, why do you think people think overall, we sort of cover this fail in business? Why do you think they just fail?
In outside of gyms or within
Let's say
gyms?
just in general. Let's say we'll take within gyms first, then we'll extend it to maybe just in general business owners.
Okay. Or maybe... I think people fail outside of gyms because they don't have the brand. It takes a long time to build Jim's brand up. A lot of money, how much money's been spent to build that up, how much time and how much advertising. They don't have the brand, they don't have the backup and the support. So with as many franchisees as I've had, I can tell when a person's business is in trouble before they know. I know the signs, I can see when they're in trouble. Whereas somebody outside of gyms, they don't have that support. They don't have someone saying, well, you're not doing this, this and this is what you've got to do to make sure your business... And at that time, they'll say, no, my business is fine. But I can tell that it's going downhill and there's a problem. To pay a mentor to do that outside of business, you can't afford that. The brand, the systems that we have are amazing. The things that we have in place. Even to have gyms online and the booking and the call centre, how much does that cost to have outside? And I think well, we all know the stats. A lot of people fail outside of gyms. Very easy. They have an idea, they have a passion, and they might be very good at grooming dogs, but they're not necessarily very good at accounting or finance or building their business up or social media or any of those things. Whereas if you're in with gyms, you've got that whole, everything that you need to build your business. So that's kind of why you would fail outside of gyms. Inside of gyms, people do fail, unfortunately, and it breaks my heart. Mostly they fail because they don't follow the system. So the franchisees that don't call their customers back straight away. And then they can't convert the leads, and then they don't have jobs, and then they say gyms isn't working. But essentially they didn't follow the system.
So it's going back to what you said before about taking ownership of what they're actually doing. They're just trying to blame and not actually taking the self-accountability. Yeah.
I think it's one of my biggest things, gyms never fails. People fail to follow the system, and that's when they do fail, unfortunately.
So that sort of leads into the next question, which will sort of follow on from this. Basically, there's a common perception online that you always see in comments, especially when I look at the social media stuff. People say, don't pay franchise fees and do it yourself. You've sort of touched on it before. Why is a franchise a better way to go?
I think people outside of gyms don't realise the level of support and care that our franchisees get. And if you think you're just buying a brand and you can still run as an independent, it's very, very different. All of those things we just talked about, the support that you receive, like in your first few weeks when you are struggling to build your business, to have someone there going, it's okay, this is normal, it's okay, or maybe let's just tweak this. You don't have that when you run your own business, and people really underestimate the value of just that. Not to mention, the benefit of having like-minded franchisees, forums, conferences where you can have continued training, all of those things. People don't see that, so they can't see the value of it unless they're within gyms. Franchisees that are in gyms, they know the value. They know they couldn't afford to pay for a master groomer to come and do a one-day workshop with them. However, we organise that very regularly. We have workshops, we have conferences, we have regular training sessions. As an independent groomer, you couldn't get that. It would cost too much to start with, but you wouldn't have access to those people or those contacts to even organise for somebody to come and spend the day with you.
Yeah, very important. And also, I think it goes back to what you said before about the concept of that employee mindset. Not even go from that employee mindset to then all of a sudden shift there to a value-based mindset. Whereas with gyms with the pay for work guarantee, that's essentially what it incentivises you to do, provide value, and to hopefully build your business up. Whereas independently, someone's not going to.
And that's the pay for work is again my favourite tool ever in the whole world. It's the best thing ever. And if you start your business on your own, you've got 2, 3, 6 months with no income potentially. And why would you go out and do free jobs? No one's going to pay you to do it. You're not going to have that income.
Yeah.
So, just the pay for work alone is absolutely invaluable. It teaches you to go out, it builds your business. I find the people that do pay for work guarantee generally don't need it at the end because they've done such a great job building their business up. They're easily making over the minimum income. The people that really, really need it and don't do it are the ones that fail, unfortunately.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about starting a business or buying a gym's franchise more specifically?
Go on a trial day.
Trial day.
Yeah. Go out and speak to as many franchisees as you can. Ask to go out with as many franchisees on the job. Get a good feel for it and see if it's what you can do. We've got so many different divisions. There's got to be something that somebody is passionate about doing. And ask every franchisee. Franchisors will give you every single franchisee's phone number. Call them all. And the good and the bad. When I first started, I was given the other 2 franchisees in my region. One didn't bother returning my call. The other one was very, very negative. But I could also see through why he was being negative. So it didn't dissuade me from buying the franchise. I just thought, well, I'm not going to run my business that way. But it's good to see the negatives and it's good to hear the positives as well. Speak to as many people, but I think the trial day is the most important thing to help you make that decision. Go on as many days as you can and see if it's something that you like doing, if it's something that you want to do and you can see yourself doing. And speak to a franchisee. How does it really work? How much support is there? What do you get for your money that you pay every month? Because there's a massive value to it.
I think that's very important because a lot of people will try and research the hills online, but as you said, the best thing to do is call other franchise owners. It doesn't matter if it's gyms, whatever system it is. Call the other franchise owners, and with us specifically, you actually just go in for a trial day, no obligations. All that sort of stuff.
And nobody's going to make you buy anything. There's no disclosure, anything you've got to sign. Just go out for a trial day and see if you like it, and talk to as many franchisees as you can, and see whether it's going to fit you. I think gyms doesn't fit everybody, but it certainly. If it's something that you want to do, it's best to do a trial day, most definitely, I think.
Good advice. So just in general, we'll sort of close with a couple of questions here. So as a business owner now, you've got such a successful business as it is, what keeps driving you forward? What's your goal for the next 5 years for, let's say, Jim's Dog Wash? Is it going to get to a stage where you've got a goal where you think you can hit and then you're going to move on to another challenge, or what is driving you forward?
At the moment, I just want 100% happy franchisees. 100% of my franchisees to be happy, making the income that they want and be amazing advocates for the brand. And that, at divisional level, is now supporting my franchisors to help them achieve those goals. And I still am very involved with franchisees as well, quite a lot of them, and I'll help out wherever is needed. But to build a division where everybody supports each other, so a franchisee can come onto the forum and say, I've got this problem, and another franchisor might answer, or another franchisee. So it's an inclusive,
sort of community within
yourself. Group of franchisees that are all supportive. We're not in competition of each other at any level at all. So franchisors or franchisees aren't in competition. We're all here to build the brand and build the best, most enthusiastic, successful brand possible. That's my goal.
So how many franchisees do you have now, roughly?
109.
109. So I think when you took it, how many did you have when you take over, roughly?
63.
63. So you've obviously grown it substantially. So what did you do to really accelerate that division forward?
what did I do?
Was it just like putting your, let's say from when you were back in the cleaning division, you put those principles in place?
I think I spent a lot of time with the franchisors, enabling them to make decisions and be able to again see their business for what it was rather than being employees as well. I think a lot of franchisors were too afraid to make decisions. They still were in that mindset where they had a boss. So empowering the franchisors to make the decisions that were in the best interest of their franchisees, I think was a big one. But also working on the culture of franchisees, so bringing in regular conferences and workshops and activities and things like that, really trying to change the culture from franchisee level has made a big difference. Seeing a lot more happy franchisees that are advocates for the brand and want to help other people to come on board because they know what an amazing thing it is.
That's really important. I'm just touching on what you said about culture, because culture's like, this is the information provided can be relevant to anyone if they're an office manager or whatever, no regional or divisional. So how, with your cultural attempt, was it more about getting people together more often, or how did you go about really building the culture in your division?
Being more positive. I think rewarding franchisees that did the right thing, and we had a competition not long ago where we rewarded a franchisee who had the highest star rating.
Okay, cool.
And acknowledging franchisees whose anniversary it was, and really celebrating the good things about gyms and helping them focus on the good things. Changing a few of the ways that we brought new franchisees on. We added an extra day at training, so they had additional business training. So I found that a lot of dog grooming franchisees love dogs, but weren't so great in business. So helping them, build their businesses up and be more efficient and those sort of things. So if you're making a great income and you can pay your bills, obviously you're going to be happier. So that was a big one as well, raising the income level of our franchisees. And I've recruited quite a few new franchisors as well, which has helped change the culture very positively as well.
Yeah, because you've been able to instill them your values and stuff, and that can obviously translate down.
Exactly.
Where do you think dog wash can go as a numbers with a division? Just out of
I
interest.
think there's no end.
No end.
No end. I think we can. I don't have a number, but I think we have a joke. We just want to paint Australia red. So that's not a bad place to be.
So your goal has probably changed from let's say with clean, when you want to get to the 100 franchises, but now your goal is more of a satisfaction.
Yeah.
You're just a happiness level with your franchisees.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's about making sure that every franchisee that we have on board wants to be there and loves being there, has an amazing income, and is proud to be part of our group. Enjoys going to all of the training opportunities and social opportunities that we offer, conferences, all of those kind of things, and feels part of a family in a nice way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll try to wrap it up there, but I was just going to say, for anyone who's thinking of taking that plunge, if it's with your franchise, let's say Jim's Dog Wash, or for any other one, what advice what do you want to say to them? Because obviously you're in that position back in the day where you were at that, many people who might be watching this at that stage where they're working that 9 to 5 and they're just thinking, what do I do to get out? What advice do you have for those type of people?
What advice? Do it. Really, it's frightening. It's very frightening leaving a secure job, but only once you've worked for yourself do you actually know real security, because nobody can ever sack you again. Nobody can bully you in the workplace or harass you or any of those things. You're in complete control of every aspect of who you work with, where you work, what kind of work you do. There's so much more security. You feel like there's security in that job. But as soon as you leave it and you understand, the real security is when you're in charge of your own business. It's
a great mindset. I don't think I've ever heard that before said by anyone in here, but that's really cool. So people who are sitting there might be thinking they're secure in their job, but as you said, real security comes from taking your destiny in your own hands.
Absolutely.
And being a business owner.
Yeah.
So what can Jim's Dog Wash offer? What services do you offer? I don't really know too much about, so maybe you can tell everyone. What can you... I know I saw on Instagram, you've got a really good Instagram presence going with your regional franchisors and yourself, so...
So anything animal related, we do horses, goats,
right,
guinea pigs, cats, dogs. Obviously, dogs are our main business, but we do dog grooming, dog washing, feeding, walking. We have franchisees that have additional service. They do dog training as well. We do and then we're basically a store on wheels as well. So we sell biscuits, treats, worm treatments, anything really related to animals, pretty much.
That's awesome. I didn't know that the horses could be. Is there any courses? Is there courses they do for horses or something like that?
We have a franchisee that actually has a special tap put on the outside of a trailer so she can wash horses as well.
Really?
Yeah, have a franchisee in Queensland that does show goats.
Show goats?
Yeah.
Right.
Grooms the goats before the show.
Wow.
We have franchisees that do guinea pigs, rabbits. We have franchisees that specialise in cats.
Cats.
And I love, and that's what I love about any part of gyms. You can make the business whatever you want it to be. So you might come on board Jim's Dog Wash and go, hey, but I love grooming cats. You can specialise in cats. I love teaching dogs how to change their behaviours. You can specialise in that. You can, and it's the same with any other division. There's no limit to what you can do and what your business is going to look like. You can make it into whatever suits you and your family.
Yeah, because I was going to say, people probably think that the service name just pigeonholes it as, let's say, Jim's Dog Wash, but as you just said, there's everything. Show goats, there's horses, guinea pigs, there's training, there's your mobile pet food and stuff on wheels, and
yes.
Obviously, maybe let's talk quickly about the trailer you have, because I know you guys have as a division a custom trailer, which I think is probably I think it's known in the industry now as probably the best.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people, actually, independents that buy from our factory.
Independents buy from it. Okay.
Yeah, they can have any colour except red.
Yeah.
But we've got a new guy in at the factory at the moment, Malcolm, and the trailers are just beyond fantastic. The modifications and the things that he does, and he's very responsive with changes, constantly trying to find ways to make it better and easier for our franchisees. They're basically a full salon on wheels: fiberglass, air conditioned, gas hot water heating, electric tables, all of the things that you need in a salon, but you can just drive to each customer.
And that you've changed that design based on feedback from franchisees.
Absolutely. So Malcolm's coming to our next franchisee conference. He's on our forum all the time saying, what about this idea? What does franchisees think? He was on there the other day and he was looking, he got some feedback that franchisees would like to have a towel rail. So he was asking all the franchisees where they thought the best place would be and getting feedback, and it's all purely straight from franchisees.
That's great. So you've got a product which you designed from, but you're always updating the product.
Absolutely.
And modifying it to make it better based on the feedback, which is great. And that's from, I think, Bayswater Trailers, who are, it's in Victoria. For anyone watching outside, that's Australia. That's really cool. So you actually do take franchisees' feedback and actually customise the trailer experience.
They're the ones in the trailer, they know what they need.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we'll leave it there, Sharon. We went a little bit more longer than I thought, but towards the end, because I just wanted to find out a bit more about it, because I had no idea myself, so I'm glad I asked. Thank you for joining us, and it was a pleasure listening to the passion and just business advice, and it sort of rubbed off of me now. Sort of, I'm an employee here, so maybe I have to go and do something with myself. Maybe it's time.
We've got a spot for you in Dog Wash.
But thank you very much for your time,
pleasure.
and we appreciate it, and we hope that everyone got a lot from it. So if people want to learn out more about gyms, you're going to obviously go to www.gyms.net, but with Dog Wash, what's your website and some of your social handles? Where can they find you?
Goodness. Well, Facebook is...
If they just pump in, if they just type, I think if they just type in Jim's Dog Wash, all the regions will come up.
Absolutely, and then Instagram is Jim's Dog Wash Australia, and then we've got website is jimsdogwash.net.au.
Yeah, and you can also find that via gyms.net. You can come and find the Dog Wash division there, and you've got all your pages there and all that sort of stuff. And I know you guys do really well on Instagram. Your Instagram presence is building, because it's obviously with dogs and animals, that's a very high interest sort of thing, and a lot of your regionals have really cool little Instagram feeds.
Very much so.
That's a great marketing method as well. But we'll leave it there. Thanks for your time, Sharon. Much appreciated.
Thank you.